Hello and welcome to our first live production of TalkPAD, which is Talk Positively About Dyslexia, a subject that is very close to my heart and even closer to our guest's heart today. But I'm so excited about this that I'm like literally jumping out of my seat, not literally, but join me as normal is the lovely Charlotte Fagard and of course our co-host, the fantastic Guy Brewer. Now, Guy, your introductions are infamous as well as famous. And we have got the lovely Mark Wright with us. And if anybody doesn't know who Mark is, my suggestion is get out from underneath the rock you've been living under and Google the man, because he is the winner of Apprentice 2014. He runs a fantastic company called Climb Online. And that is all I'm going to say on the subject. Over to you, Guy.
Thank you. And do you know what? This is the perfect opportunity. You've set me up wonderfully because I can tell you all about Mark Wright. Mark Wright is an influential multi-award-winning entrepreneur and self-taught digital marketing specialist and speaker who won the BBC show The Apprentice in 2014 and runs one of the UK's fastest-growing digital marketing agencies. Mark Wright is the CEO of digital marketing agency Climb Online, which he launched with Lord Alan Sugar's backing after winning The Apprentice in 2014. Mark Wright is the only Apprentice winner to turn over in excess of £1 million during his first year of trading with Climb Online. Mark Wright is a young gun, a status that less than 500 entrepreneurs in Britain hold, and Climb Online has consecutively been named among the UK's top 100 early stage businesses in the esteemed Startups 100 Index. Mark Wright is a sales manager supporting internet marketing consultants, and he has received repeated recognition for the highest revenue growth within his company. He has over 9 years experience in selling within the digital health and fitness industries, though his first job was washing cars at his dad's business. Mark Wright is a great communicator and manager of people and claims he has no bad business skills, although he confesses that some may find him arrogant, as he appears to find it hard to accept others' opinions. He can also be grumpy in the mornings. He says he is inspired in business by John D. Rockefeller, Andrew Carnegie, and J.P. Morgan, as they are entrepreneurs that built their own empires. Mark Wright is a big believer in the fact that the best people in business are those who can support and celebrate other people's successes, and that's what he always strives to do, regardless of the treatment he receives in return. Mark Wright is never going to retire, and Mark Wright is dyslexic. Welcome, Mark Wright.
I didn't even know some of that about you, Mark.
I mean, I'd forgotten I'd said a lot of that stuff. You've been on a dark, deep dive through the Google machine, my friend. I may as well just log off now because I'm not going to be able to top that cunning introduction.
Do you know what? I love his introductions, man. I absolutely love it. Guy, well done, mate, on such a fantastic introduction.
Yeah.
But genuinely, Mark, you are a phenomenal character. You are a fantastic business mind. And you've achieved so much in your life, right? And yet, like me, you're dyslexic. You probably left school. Probably people told you everything you couldn't do. And yet you've gone, fingers up, I'm doing it anyway. Yeah, people can turn around and say, oh, yeah, he's had a lot of support. He won The Apprentice 2014. And yes, you did. But let's be honest, mate, the way you did that in itself was absolutely genius. So I'm going to start it off, if you don't mind. I want you to tell us how you won Apprentice 2014, because I think this is probably one of the cleverest things I've ever heard in my entire life. So go with that, mate. Let's start with that question.
All right. Well, thank you all for having me here. And I will tell you a story at the end about why Nelly didn't do this podcast. So I'll save that till the end. So the story is, I think it really starts with me being dyslexic and having learning difficulties, because when I was a young man, I really struggled at school. But I didn't know I had any problems. Just I'm like guessing most people with learning difficulties or dyslexia or poor vision or poor hearing, they don't know that they're different from anyone else. But what the body does, what you do as a human being, we're so adaptive. You can lose something and you grow something else. Human beings are incredibly adaptive. And what I've gained is I can retain information by memory really, really well because I can't read and write. So I can remember things. I can remember statistics, numbers, people's names, all of that stuff, jokes, all of the nicknames. My mind's really funny like that, but it's very analytical. I store things in little drawers and I have a process and I have to follow my own process to do things. And winning The Apprentice was no different. My theory was that 10 series had gone before me. There must have been a pattern formed for people who had won it. So I just went back in time. I'd never heard of the show. I'd never seen the show. I'd never heard of Alan Sugar. He hates it when I say that. But my theory was easy. Go on Wikipedia, look at the 9 winners before me and track that one individual through each series of their show and pick up patterns that they did, the way they acted, things they said when they put themselves forward for project manager, and just map patterns and play the statistical anomaly that if you do what other people have done to win, if you do the same thing, well, you must get the same results. It's happened 9 times before. So I did that, and to say I won easily would be an understatement in my mind, but other people said I struggled. But I won it, and I mean, for me, getting on was the hardest part. There's over 75,000 people in my year that auditioned, so getting on the programs like winning a lottery ticket, winning it, I don't know the statistical probability, but I'd say it's very low. I played the analytical phenomenon, which is just do what others did to get success. You have to get the same results. And I was never going to share that, but I did with people, because what I've realized is you can tell people how to go and be successful. Most people, if you go and tell them to read a book, you tell them the right movies, you tell them the right mentors and tools, they don't go and do it anyway, that frustrates me about human beings more than anything. But if you look hard enough, you can be successful at whatever you want in life because the right tools are all around you.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And I can tell you the statistics of you winning The Apprentice in 2014. It was 1 in 75,000. So that's the answer to that question for you. But we have got some questions that we've written down and that Guy has come up with. And the first question is, how much do the people that you work with know about your dyslexic traits? And the reason why that is such a good question is because until I started doing this show with Guy, I didn't know half of my traits. So, yeah, how do the people know about yours?
Well, I guess everyone, not that I've told anyone, but if they've received an email from me, they'll know pretty quickly. That it's all messy. It doesn't make much sense. It makes a lot of sense to me, but caps lock is on. The words are spelt really poorly. The formation of the actual, email or the communication is poor. And it's a bit of a running joke how bad my communication is in writing. So the staff kind of think it's hilarious. And there's these phishing scams going around our company at the moment where people are setting up fake emails, pretending to be me and emailing my staff to get us to transfer money to them. But the running joke from the staff is they know it's a scam because it's all spelt correctly, the email, and it's structured properly. So they know it's not me.
Yeah, Charlotte vets all my emails before they leave the building, in fairness. So I get that completely.
Yeah. Is there something that you kind of, from a young businessman, before you won The Apprentice, you still had your marketing, digital marketing agency in place. So did you deal with this in a different way back then with your sort of communication with business owners?
I think being dyslexic has been my greatest gift in business. And I choose to look at it like a gift because had I been able to communicate like others at school and post-school, I don't think I would be as good at selling and communicating verbally as I am. I've been able to communicate with my hands, with the way I am in meetings, with the way I speak on stage. And I've had to learn because I thought I was dumb. I kept saying to my mum when I'd come home from school, I'm stupid, I'm dumb, I'm not as good as the other kids. And it was a big problem earlier on in my life. and I learned how to harness it for more positive things later in life, which was, okay, I'm not good at those, but what I can do is speak on stage. Some people say they'd rather die than speak on stage. That's crazy to me. Speaking on is my favorite. It's the best when you learn to communicate great verbally with people. It's such a gift. So I think I've just learned to look at who I am and what I've got rather than what I can't do, and focus on that. And if you spend all the time thinking about, I'm never going to be able to write a book, write a book without assistance. I get that. I understand that. So I just focus on what I can do. Maybe, even Lord Sugar, Richard Branson, all these guys, they dictate their books. They're writing into a dictaphone. They give it to someone else to type up. There's ways around everything if you think about it in the right positive mindset.
Yeah, and it's funny because I'm gonna come in on this one because that's exactly what I do, right? So, I mean, when I left school, it's no secret. Right? My maths teacher told me that the only numbers I ever make up were numbers on the dole queue. For the younger generations, that's the benefits queue, right? I've never been on benefits. I've worked my whole life, and 12 months later, I was in the intelligence corps. Which is quite ironic, really, when you think about it, but I also have always said that actually dyslexia, even though it's a complete nightmare, has actually been one of the best assets I've got because you naturally become a problem solver.
Definitely. Your mind works in a different, I think my mind works completely different from everyone else. And I kind of think I've got a bit of a superpower. I think that superpower is actually called dyslexia, which other people see as a disability. But God gave it to me for some reason. I'm not sure what, but it makes me a lot of money. So I'm pretty happy about the situation as far as I'm concerned. I might not be able to write you a great poem, but I can read you someone else's like it's my own. And then stage fantastically.
That's brilliant. That's brilliant. Guy, what questions have you got, mate? I know you got them written down there somewhere.
No, I've got some in my head. And
okay.
I'm really interested because a lot of people have a hard time in school, and there's a couple of things I want to ask. The first is this: what is it? So if you had a hard time at school, and that's at the time when what people say to you can have a big impression, can't it? Because your friends around you that maybe they find things so much more easier. Teachers aren't always complimentary. How did you get from that state, I suppose, into the more positive, workaround frame of mind?
Well, school was a very difficult time for me, and I don't miss it one bit. I hated every minute of it while I was there. It felt incredibly like a waste of time. Sitting in a room with other kids, trying to understand information that's being written on a wall in front of you was impossible for me. It was literally, they might as well just thrown bricks at my head while I was sitting in the chair because I wasn't getting it. I didn't understand the information. I wasn't retaining it. I wasn't learning. And I think it was through the style of teaching. I'm a practical learner. If you show me something and I can do it with you, I'll know it forever. If you write some words on a board and say, now do you understand how to do maths? Absolutely not. I also didn't understand the value of some of the things that they were trying to teach me. And I've always thought that I needed skills for life, not skills to learn. Like I didn't understand Pythagoras' theorem. I've never needed that in the real world. I've never needed any of the stuff they taught me. Okay, spelling and all that stuff, sure, it's really useful. But a majority was a complete waste of bloody time. And I never learned knowing what company's house was, how to pay tax, how to set up a bank account, how to control money, how to invest money. I left school with no skills for life. But most of the skills from life I learned were from playing sport and being in the cadets. I hated the cadets. I absolutely hated it because it was so hard, but it gave me great skills that I use every day in life. And I think school, it needs a full overhaul because now schools are set up to get kids to pass exams. Yeah. And it's completely wrong. We need to give kids schools that teach them how to be successful in life. And we need elements and classes in schools for different learning styles and abilities, because I could have been a great student if I was taught correctly, which I wasn't. So I don't blame myself, which is maybe a bad thing, because maybe I could have applied myself more. I blame the system for not being right at the time when I didn't know what was up with me.
Well, this is something that we hear a lot and heard alongside the podcast, the other episodes that we've done, because it needs to. And there's something as well that you guys come across a lot, isn't it?
Well, do you know what? I hear a lot of people say they do blame themselves, and that crushes self-confidence. And all those things you said about being positive and finding ways to work around works for people when they're feeling positive and confident. And when they're not, they kind of, all the strategies go out the window and they go back into kind of survival mode, which is, write it down and do it the neurotypical way as taught in school. Yeah. So I'm really interested. So what gave you the confidence was there something that happened when you left school that made you think, oh, never mind all that stuff, I can do something else? Did you, was it watching your dad's cars or?
It's a very good question. I believe without doubt the key to high performance is high self-esteem. If you've got a low performing child or adult human being, there's something wrong with that person about what they believe and see in themselves. Now, when I left school, I didn't think much of myself because I didn't do well at school. Then I started working out in the gym and I started to get quite muscly and I had a good body and I was getting attention from girls and I was pretty good at football. And all of a sudden, my confidence started to build. And I became a different person the more confident I got in who I was. And I know it's so cheesy, but people say once you learn, once you master yourself, you can master anything else, or you love yourself and others can then love you. It's so true, because once you really get confident in what you are doing, it's great. And where I really started to take off is when I got into sales. I tried loads of different jobs and I was horrendous at all of them. Like, for example, I was working in a steak restaurant as a waiter and I would write down the orders and I'd get back to the till and I couldn't read the order book from my own handwriting. So I put the orders in wrong and there was loads of complaints and I was like, crap, I can't even be a bloody waiter. Like, I cannot even, in my best go, can't even be a waiter. But then I found sales and my whole life changed, because I always felt I was going to struggle in the world because I wasn't very intelligent at school, smart at school. But when I found sales and I was the top of the leaderboard, bang, 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 all the time, I thought, stuff school, I'm the best out here in this thing called the real world. And I was a new man. I was a bloody new man. And it is all about what you see and what you feel about yourself. And I didn't learn that till I was about 19, 20.
Yeah, it's funny you say that, because I never learned anything about myself until I left. So when I joined the army, and very similar to you, you have to go out and you do training, right? So training's forced upon you. It's not a choice thing when you join the army. And I realized I could run 1.5 miles in 6 minutes 50. And I thought, well, I might not be able to actually write down how long 1.5 miles is, but I can get there in 6 minutes 50. So it really doesn't matter, right? And then I started realizing that, actually, if someone was shooting at me, Pythagoras' theorem would mean absolutely nothing to me. The fact that I can run 1.5 miles in 6 minutes 50 would matter to me. And it was exactly the same. And when I fell disabled, when I became disabled, everybody told me, once again, you can't do this, you can't do that, you can't do the other. And it wasn't until a drug overdose that I actually realized the reality of where I was. And then I started playing sport again. And all of a sudden, none of that mattered. And now I still play sport, and I'm quite well achieved in sport. And it is so different. It's what people classify as success. And there was a point to that little jibber jabber, Mark. Don't worry. One of the questions I want to ask you, right, is about success. I consider myself quite successful, not because I'm rich, but I feel successful because I've achieved what I've achieved. And you are also incredibly successful. And yes, if I'm judging you as successful via the amount of money you have in the bank balance, then yes, you are successful. But I want to know what makes you successful in other ways, right? So besides money, what else? What are the things that really matter to you? And what are your classifications of success?
Well, it's a really good question, because I often get caught in the trap of talking about success from a business standpoint, because that's sort of my skill, that's my gift. So I think business is a form of success, but having a good relationship with your partner is success. Raising a family is success. being healthy and looking after your body is successful as well. So there's success takes form in many, many ways, but I believe a human being who is writing down their goals, heading in a specific direction and achieving something for themselves, and that can be financially, spiritually, with their family, friends, loved ones, with their community. As long as you are heading somewhere with purpose and achieving, you are successful. And success takes many different forms. There's people that are monks that haven't got a pound to their name who are 10 times more successful than me because they've mastered something that I haven't on a whole nother level. So success is a really loaded word, which can mean so many different things, because I'm successful in a lot of ways, financially, in other areas of my life. And then there's some areas which I feel I'm failing miserably in, and I'm working at those as well. So I think it's more, not so much the result, but the willingness to constantly attempt to be better is what I believe is a successful person.
Yeah, this is what I try and teach young people, and I always say to people, it doesn't matter what your mountain is. Like me personally, my mountain is Everest, but your mountain could be anything, and that's such a clear message to people. Like your mountain could be your first swimming length of a swimming pool, or your next mathematics exam, or your first job interview. They're all mountains. Let's talk a little bit about someone that we both know, which is Leo Carr. One of the youngest and most amazing people I know, and his mountain is literally every day he sets himself a new mountain and he achieves it. And that's the type of gumption and the get up and go that we are all capable of achieving and doing. So the next question I want to ask, right, is more about your workplace now, right? So about your business and coming back onto the dyslexic. What reasonable adjustments work for you in the workplace? I mean, obviously we've got dictaphones and PAs to help you, but what adjustments have you done within your working environment to make life easier for you?
Well, I've completely, as you know from my mentoring course, I've changed my whole life so I don't have to do any things that I'm not good at. The stupidest, oldest theory in business was work on the things that you're not good at. That's now in the bin because we know that's a terrible strategy. Work on the things that you enjoy and that you're good at, and get someone else to do all the things that you're bad at, that they're good at. That's the best way to be successful, and go to a job that you don't feel like you're working in, because you don't have to do anything you don't enjoy. So my whole job and where I really have got to is, first of all, I went into a career that doesn't require loads of reading and writing and desk time. I started in sales on telephone, like with the telephone on the head, dialing out, making cold calls. So I was doing this, speaking all day, and I just had to click a button, cold, warm, next thing in the funnel, and it worked in the CRM. So I went into an industry or a career that was to my strengths. And then I worked my way up and always had people around me where I was very honest about what I was good at and what I was bad at. And I've just, my theory about outsourcing. I'm relentless at putting people around me, my PA and most of my team, who cover all the things I'm not good at. I don't write long emails. I don't write long, minutes of meetings and all that stuff. I have other people that do that. That's taken a few years to get there. But I've always found strategies, and even when I was first starting out, using tools like freelancers to help me when I needed to write a long proposal, or I just couldn't get away from doing what I needed to do, that was hampering me. But listen, it hasn't been bad out here in the real life, because you can just get people around you that support you, and it's all about picking the right career. If I'd gone and been a high court judge and needed to read mountains and mountains of paper, I'd be the worst judge. I'd get through one case every 2.5 years. It's not my thing. Being a lawyer wouldn't have been my thing, because it's just not my strength. But being a great salesperson, being a great digital marketer, speaking and helping and coaching people and helping others has been my thing. So it's just about finding what's right for you.
Yeah. I do want to get...
Sorry, Guy, what were you saying, buddy?
I was just going to say that I feel a bit of a top tip sneaking in halfway through rather than waiting for the end, because putting a couple of things together, isn't it? If you can find that thing, especially when you're young, that you're good at, isn't it? And for a lot of people, it's often sport, but it could be anything, couldn't it? Something that you're good at that gives you confidence, that makes you think, yeah, I can do that. I'm all right. That helps, doesn't it? When you've got to explain to someone, oh, well, I'm not so good at writing all this stuff down. You don't mind it, do you? Because you know you're good at something, so you can afford to be not so good at something else and get a bit of a collaborator to do that stuff for you. So I think, you know, it's so important, isn't it, to be able to find something that you can excel at, that makes you feel good, because then things like dyslexia, which you can't do anything about, don't become such a massive, great cloud as they do for some people, because it's just another part of life that you have to deal with.
Definitely. I think that, you know, the hot tip for kids that I give when I speak at schools or universities is forget about money and go and do as many different jobs as possible. Go and try as many different things, careers, you know, maybe join the army or the military for a bit, work in a restaurant, try and write a book, try and write some music, go and volunteer, do as many things as possible as quickly as you can, and the right thing will find you. If you're sitting in your workplace and you're looking at the clock to see if it's 5:30, you're in the wrong job, and you're probably not enjoying that. You're probably not feeling great about yourself. You need to find what's right for you to feel good about yourself, and everything is better from there. And it doesn't matter if you've got dyslexia, if you've got any disabilities, any of this stuff goes out the window when you find doing what's right for you. Trust me, I've seen it so many times.
That is a top tip. I mean, because there's like, this is the first job. I said this to you the other day night. This is the first job. I'm 40 years old now, right? And this is the first time I'm doing a job where I can actually be me. I don't have to pretend. I don't have to be someone else. I could just be me. And it's absolutely invigorating. It's phenomenal.
I do want to.
You're not even the boss.
To the team of Climb Online, because we worked with you, and absolutely everyone I come across has the same mentality and really positive outlook on how to sort of create business relationships. So I want to ask you, Mark, what sort of do you have because I know that you're really keen about looking after the staff. So do you have things in place for people who might have a neurodiverse condition, or other sort of things that will have to have things in place for them to be able to come to work and enjoy it?
Yes, I do. And the thing that I'm really good at is my gift is making everyone who works with me feel not special. I make them feel so not special that they feel special. And let me dig into that, because this is hotter than my last tip, right? Every single person that sits across from you in a meeting room, across your table, has something happening really terrible in their life. Something really good, something really terrible. They could have cancer, they could have dyslexia, they could have anxiety, depression, they could be having suicidal thoughts, they could have a child that has cerebral palsy, their mum could be on death's door. Every single person has something, has what we could call or label as a disability. And when you take that away from them and show them you can use that, but that road is not going to be success. So let's just agree we've all got some BS going on, but we all agree not to use it. And we're going to agree to go over here and work together and be the best versions of what we have got and what we can do. And when you take that crutch away from them and you say, because we've all got some, if I told you half the things I've got wrong with me, you'd run down that high street quicker than Usain Bolt. So let's agree we're all messed up, and let's just go out there and do the best we can and play it to our strengths. And I say to my staff that we're the best bunch of weirdos that should have never worked together, because every one of my staff is bloody weird. And a lot of them couldn't have got jobs at other places, but I love their weirdness. You know, I've got people that have autism. I've got people that have serious learning disabilities. I've got all of this stuff, and I make them feel like normal people every single day. And I talk to them as if they're the same way I speak to Alan Sugar. And the empowerment and the strength that gives them to be successful is the key. Taking that disability, because I've got one guy who really, you know, he would struggle to get a job anywhere else. He really would. And I took him on knowing it was going to be very difficult. And I've taken the disability away from him and just treat him exactly how I treat everyone else. And he's a different person. You wouldn't know now. He's delivering good work. He's doing excellent things. And that is really the key. I have a team of HR set up for people to support them with their disabilities if they need special work setups or any of that. But the way I deal with them, you would never know what's going on with them because I treat everyone like it's Alan Sugar.
Sure. I love having conversation with you, Mark, right? But for a couple of reasons. Whenever I have a conversation for you, and I don't know how you do this, right? You say that you've got a gift. This is your gift, right? So when we were setting up our business, we were thinking about having a board of directors. And you come into a conversation with us and you go, have you ever thought about having a board of directors? And we were like, well, yeah, actually, we're really nervous about it. And you're like, no, best thing you'll ever do in your business. We're like, great, we're doing the right thing. And then there was something else and something else and something else all the way through. And Charlotte will back me up on this, right? This generally happened all the way through our business journey and our journey with you. And we've just given someone who his name's I've got to tell you the story. His name's Andy Ibbott. He used to be one of the most successful motorcycle trainers in the world. He was hero status. He was my hero as a motorbike rider. And then one day he had a cancer tumor in his neck, had an operation. They had to take out the carotid artery, and as a result, half his brain died, and he was left with only half a brain. 5% chance of survival, could only move his eyes. Now he's actually climbing Everest with us next year. He's an incredible human being. He then later became my motorcycle instructor as a paraplegic motorcyclist because he understood. And he was in this position where no one else was giving him a chance. He was scratching around in the chicken shed going, no one's going to employ me. I've gone from hero to zero. And we said, we'll employ you, but we're not going to employ you. We want you to run our first franchise business in Northampton, and we will give you every ounce of support that you need to do it. And there's been times when we've sat there and gone, are we doing the right thing here? Is this going to work? Are we doing it? Are we protecting our brand? Are we, all the theories, all the worries that you have. Then you come on this show and you're going, I employed a guy that no one else would employ, and it was the best thing I ever did. And now I'm sitting there going, we've made a bloody good choice. We've given someone a chance that no one else would give it a chance. And I know it's a good choice because Mark Wright's just told me. So I know what I'm doing. Right.
Well, I'd love to that's very kind of you to say, and I'd love to take credit for it, but I stole the idea. It's the best form of flattery is to borrow someone else's stuff. My dad owns a car garage and we have a wrecking yard. And my granddad always employed any of the Down syndrome kids in the town that couldn't have got paid jobs. And my dad then has done the same. We have a connection with an integration company, charity in Australia, and we employ all of the disabled kids who can't get paid work. And it's just to sort cans and give these poor guys and girls a chance of reality and normality in their own life. And there was this one poor chap who worked for my dad, very, very hard circumstances. And my dad worked with him and paid him and taught him how to work until he was able to buy his own flat. And it was so inspiring to me. And if you met my dad, you would never think he was the type of guy that would do all of this stuff. And he doesn't want anything for it. No one knows that he does it in the background. He just believes that we've been gifted with the ability to be great businessmen and earn money, but we owe it to others to give them an opportunity and to kind of pass it on down the line. So I've always tried to, if I see someone that needs help and needs an opportunity, I take it upon myself to try and supply that. It doesn't always work out, by the way, but actually more often than not it does. And that's the big surprise.
Well, Mark, I've always had utmost respect for you, right? I'm not going to blow smoke up your ass. I always have. But that single statement alone has raised the bar. I've always thought you're a great guy. But the fact that you do that for people is puts you above everybody else. And that, my friend, is why you're successful.
That's very kind. It's very kind. Look, the best gift you can give someone is to treat them normally.
Yeah.
And that was why I wasn't going to come on this podcast here today, is because I've never spoken about my dyslexia ever publicly. This is the first time in 32 years today, because I refuse to say that I'm disabled in any way or held back. There is people a lot worse than me, and there's people a lot worse than all of us on this call who are, clinging to life today or in the worst circumstances. And just because I can't do some things, it doesn't mean anything. It's what I create in my own life that is my success. And people who like to say they are where they are because they lost an arm, or they are diabetic, or they're obese, or they're black or white or a woman or whatever, I feel they set themselves up for premature failure with their own mindset. And if you take that away, we're all human beings and we've all got something wrong with us. So I just refuse to speak about it, because I don't want to have that conversation with myself that there's anything wrong with me, because I'm just like everyone else, but I choose to focus on what I can go and produce.
And I am so grateful that you came on the show, because this is what the show is all about.
Yeah.
It's talk positively about dyslexia. And every single guest that's been on have had that outcome about that dyslexia has actually been the best thing that's ever happened to them. And you have proven that so much today with all your stories about what you do and what you do for your staff, your community, and how you help others as well. I think that's absolutely fantastic. So thank you so much for coming on the show.
It's my pleasure. And I've been so lucky in my life to meet some very successful people along the way. People who you wouldn't even believe, they're so amazing, they're so successful, they're so famous and so rich. They have dyslexia, they have anxiety, they have OCD, they have disabilities where legs are shorter than the other, or they've lost a limb, or whatever it might be. But you wouldn't even know. But what they always say is all of those things that have happened created their mentality and created their success. And I think sometimes what's happening to you might feel like you don't understand why, but you'll know at the end of the road when you look back, wow, that gave me an opportunity to be who I was and create what I did.
Yeah, and this is a brilliant message to hand out. And I remember I was at a school and I'd done a talk, and I spoke about it recently. And my motto is always get back up. And I'd done this talk at the school, and it was brilliant. I loved all the kids. And I said to them, what happens when you fall over? You get back up, get back up. And then about 3 months later, I got an email from the teacher, and she said, one of the kids in class today said, I can't do it, miss. It's not working. I can't do it. And another pupil, and bear in mind, these kids were like 5 and 6. And another pupil turned around to him and said, that's all right. Just do a Jamie and get back up until you do it. Brilliant. That was the moment, Mark, that I became a success, mate.
It's amazing. Even if you help one person, I've put content out, or, have done a podcast where maybe 5 people have listened. And the question is always, why do we do this? If you help one person, you don't realize the impact you can make on, if it changes one person's life and that person goes on to cure cancer or do something ridiculous. We've really helped here. Do you know what I mean? And you never know who you're coming into contact with every single day.
What's interesting as well is that what you've said, which is obviously one of your many gifts, because they are obviously hugely numerous, is that thing where you're taking people who may not be employed elsewhere. What you're doing is you're believing in them. And it was what Paula said, didn't it, a couple of episodes ago about writing a book, is that it takes self-belief. But her belief came from her husband, start off with, and then he said, you can do it, you can do it. And if you've got someone who says that to you, it makes a huge difference, because sometimes we don't like to get out of our comfort zone quite often. And if someone just gives that little push, then you rise to the challenge, don't you? And that builds confidence step by step. So not only is that what you're doing, which is the greatest thing a person can do to another person, in my opinion, is to believe in them, but also it creates trust, doesn't it? And that is the strongest thing in any organization. And a lot of people that I talk to are having a hard time at work, and so they're having coaching. one of the things that they lack is that sense of trust with the people around them who they work with, so that they're anxious about their their poor spelling and how it's regarded, or being forgetful or forgetting stuff. But where that trust does exist and they feel supported, that's where they thrive. So, these are simple things, aren't they? You don't have to be a, doctor of philosophy to know all this stuff. These are kind of basic human qualities, but it shows, and you've demonstrated how they pay off, don't they? Because it's an investment.
Definitely.
It's not money, it's investment in humanity, isn't it?
Definitely. I think, but I mean, if you speak to some of my people that I've worked with, I've mentored, who have left my tutelage, they maybe won't say great things, which is okay, because sometimes the best love you can get someone is to tell them the things they needed to hear to become the best version of themselves. And I don't always dilly-dally around what needs to be said to the individual. I just say it, and it sometimes hurts a person, but I sleep pretty easy and well at night knowing that my intentions are to help that person be better and to get out of that self-pity and that environment that they're living in. And if I can restore their confidence and get them to believe in themselves, and even push them to a career, maybe even if it's not with me, to somewhere else, to enable them to be successful, I've done my job. And a lot of people are being out there being really bloody successful in spite of me, to show me, I'm going to show that guy, that dick, that I'm going to go out there and be super successful because he told me X, Y, Z, and now they're off being really successful. What they don't realize is I'm winning, because that was exactly what I was trying to do the whole time.
Mate, it's absolutely brilliant. Look, we have to end the show, right? At some point. I mean, I could generally sit here and chat with you all day long, but yet I could talk to anybody all day long. I could talk a glass eye and sleep. So I apologize for that profusely normally, but we do have to end the show at some point. But before we go, Mark, what would be your top tip of all top tips? What is your top tip to give to young people out there who's sitting there thinking, yeah, this sounds like me, and if he could do it, I could do it? What would be your comment to them right now?
Well, it would be to really understand that you can do whatever you want. There is literally like a guy called Elon Musk flying around to Mars and blowing his sedan car into the sky and flying it around the space. You can do whatever you want in life. You can be a footballer, you can be a supermodel, you can work at Tesco's, whatever. You can literally do whatever you want, as long as you're comfortable with doing what you're doing and it's within what you want to do. Just enjoy life. As far as I know, you get one go around. So you might as well go out here and have a bloody good time and go as big as you can and really enjoy it. And don't listen to anyone else, because every time I've listened to everyone else, I've gone 3 or 4 steps backwards. You're a great indicator in your mind and your body of what's right for you. Listen to yourself, trust in yourself, surround yourself with great people, and have a good time, because it goes by pretty quick.
Yeah. What a great final statement. Mark, I know personally it's been great to have you on the show. I never stop smiling when I'm around you, because I just think you're awesome. And it's funny because obviously I'm a bit older than you, and I look at you sometimes and I can see a younger version of me in your crazy ways, and I just love it. I just respect it. So
we're both crazy in a good way.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely crazy in a batshit crazy way, and you know what? I'm dead proud of it. So yeah, absolutely. So for myself, from Charlotte, from the fantastic Guy, we want to say a massive thank you to Mark Wright for joining us on our first ever live production of TalkPAD, and what a show it was. Mark, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me, and the great introduction, Guy. I'll see you all soon.
Absolutely. You take care. Have a great day. Goodbye.
Bye.